Miss shit off course, which way shit's going? Spent too much time in hibernation. Sleep, what went wrong? Things changed from lift off up until the destination was reached. Mind and body weak, gone from the stress on the brain. Lost in the void of space, what does it really takes to stay sane and maintain stability? Is this really me floating in the maze haze of what will I, could I, who should I be? Am I destined to weep and cry my life away for all the wrong mistakes I made and take the blame? Damn, this shit is so insane. Just wanna flow free like a river into the ocean, not headed what for the fucking drain. Life caught up in disarray, system malfunctioning, made days instead of paydays. Red light blinking, thinking where's the green? Hoping this is a dream, it only seems to be a nightmare. Scared, pure fear of the unknown. Where's here? Do you know what I mean? Journeys through the galaxies at light speed. Please, just catch me.
Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished. Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished.
Yeah, I'm ready for liftoff, like a hooper when it's tip-off. Yeah, I'm ready to score, ready for war. Polishing my floor so I can shine like a diamond in the store. I sparkle like the son of Allah, creating rain, hail, and earthquakes, the God in the flesh. And they say God makes no mistakes. From natural disaster to calm and laughter, I'm balancing the scales like a yin-yang master. Emotional intelligence is energy intelligence. The wise use the mind to align with the elements. Health is a benefit. Treat the body like a temple. They creating viruses to end you. State to state, new mandates are taking place. World's using faith as the government vaccinates. Hard to keep your head on straight in this world of the snakes. Reptilians post as heads of state and Congress. You gotta shine on regardless. Glow amongst the godless, rise in Christ conscious. Free yourself from mental bondage and let there be carnage to the dragon, the beast, and harlot. In Revelation, I got the heart of a gladiator, lightsaber like Luke and Darth Vader. Training like a Jedi Knight to fight ops to get the crowd jumping like a New Year's ball drop. Let's go!
Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished. Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished. Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished. Heart always crying, but my heart won't stay silent. Sky is the limit, but after that I'm not finished.
Peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstorm, what's going on? Peace to you and yours. I am here with a very special guest today. Some of you who have been rocking with me for a while have known her. Hopefully you've used her services because she is dead accurate and dead nice. As we New Yorkers say, dead ass. Dead ass nice. Dead ass accurate. All right? So when I go for counseling myself, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I deal with teaching spirituality from an esoteric, aka occult, perspective, using what I call African spiritual esoteric technology or African spiritual sciences, right? Which aka could be called magic. But I also lock in with astrology as well, but I am not an astrologer, so I often consult with astrologers to clear up where I may be misguided or misconfused. So, without further ado, I want to welcome in my very special guest, Divine Feminine Works, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
What's going on, Rob? Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everyone is well. Very excited to be here. Very excited to see you back out here doing the damn thing. So I'm excited for tonight's discussion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great one. There's a lot going on right here in these astrological streets. And
yes,
they've been hitting hard, especially this Mercury retrograde. Like I had a situation last night that was definitely Mercury in Leo, and I had to double back and say, whoa, Rob, gotta chill, gotta back up a little bit. So I had to eat some humble pie and apologize recently. But yeah, these planets have been hitting hard. And you said some interesting things about Mercury retrograde. But I want to talk about a current event, Mel, that's happened recently. And let's present this. I'll share this. I'm gonna look at this. And share this. All right. So this happened while the moon was in Taurus, and we're under a Cancer sun, right?
Mhm.
So Shannon Sharp, right? OnlyFans model, right? This young we'll call her Snow Bunny, right? For lack of a better term, right? Was with
She is Latina though, so
uh
maybe she is Latina, so maybe not
oh,
Snow
she's
Bunny.
Latina? Oh, snaps, Aninga. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. All right. So we'll strike that from the record. But he's messing with this girl, right? This young girl, 19-year-old. She's 22 now. And she retired from OnlyFans, right? Based on the settlement that she got. They didn't disclose what the actual monetary amount was, but it was
Right.
enough for her to be able to retire from OnlyFans. And this happened on Friday when the moon was in Taurus, and also Friday being a Venus day, right?
Mm-hmm.
With definitely Taurus association. What would you say about this astrologically, Mel, with everything that's going on? How this lines up?
So with this, I mean, this started while Uranus was still in Taurus. And so Uranus in Taurus would be bringing sudden windfalls of money. So this clocks exactly with that. I mean, Uranus is now in Gemini, but when the news broke of this initially, of her even suing him, for sexual harassment and everything, sexual assault, Uranus was still in Taurus. And so I believe that when the news first broke, it was kind of 50-50 in terms of how it was going to play out, right? Because people were like, oh, she's just looking for money because the lawyer that she hired went after Jay-Z, went after a whole bunch of other people. So it was really just a cash grab. Then there were people on the other side talking about he's like a pervert and that's what he likes. He likes him young or whatever. So it was really like you didn't know how it was going to turn out. And Uranus and Taurus was like, boom, windfall of cash. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. There's a lot of race baiting if in the conversations that they were having with each other, race play, I should say. So it's just interesting how these things, come out during this time, and he promised that he was going to fight it and go super hard, but he ended up having to settle. And I'm, enough for her to have OnlyFans. Would you say this is an aspect, Mel, in your personal perspective? This is an aspect of the divine feminine rising, or this is just the aspect of let's say the masculine having to correct themselves? What would be your perspective on this?
Oh, that's a very interesting take because do I think this is the divine feminine rising? Not her. I did not her. I wouldn't say that because just from my opinion, and I'm also an attorney, so looking at it from a legal perspective, I feel like whatever may have happened, and I will never take away from anyone who's been victimized by anybody, right? But in this age where securing the bag is people's utmost priority by any means necessary, like it almost could seem like this was a setup, if you ask me, because it's like you know who you're dealing with. And you know that all you have to do is press that button and say, oh my gosh, this happened. And again, I'm not trying to pass judgment. I'm not saying it happened or it didn't. Clearly, I wasn't there. But if you could just push a button and something like this happens, why wouldn't you? In the age of content creation, in the age of 304s, in the age of, everybody's a stripper, right? And I'm like, this is very much in alignment with that. And I don't think that that's part of the divine feminine rising. The divine feminine rising, it's not just about money. It's not just about making men pay. That's not what it is at all. It's really about feminine energy becoming a priority. And for all of us moving from that point, this is still very masculine. This moving from a place of I need to get this money, I need to do this, I need to do that. The divine feminine ain't doing that shit. Like, that's so to answer your question, no. This is not the divine feminine rising. And in terms of, the divine masculine having to correct himself, like, I don't see any correction here. I think this is just another example of the status quo, essentially, and how things have been working. And it's just another example of that.
Yeah, it's always interesting how astrologically or astrology in general, the cosmos kind of always mirrors what's going on in celebrity and Hollywood and these different aspects. It's like the stars up there influence the stars down here, and you see these things play out, and they're always signs and symbols. So I thought this was just very interesting. I definitely wanted your take on it. Yeah, and I forgot that you were an attorney, so that's even deeper. Dreamwise says Shannon got some inner work to do. Something inside of him is toxic, and he had to pay.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, Dream. Yeah, Shannon is very judgmental. Like, I watch Shannon, I enjoy his content. I think he's hilarious. But one thing about it, if he catches an NFL player or NBA player doing something, he goes hard. Like, he goes, "Why did you do that? Why would you do that?" Like, he's super judgmental. And I think, like, he had to eat a slice of humble pie with this one, and shows that no one's above mistakes, you know? No one's above error. No one's above, doing quote unquote wrong. Well, really wrong to yourself, right? No one's above these type of things. So we really just have to be cautious out here. Mel, your professional opinion, and then we'll move on to more astrology. Do you think that men should, in these type of situations that have currency and have status, should they have women sign NDAs? And B question, should the average man sign NDAs when they're dealing with women based on what's been happening nowadays? What is your opinion?
It depends on the individual and it depends on the circumstances. If you are someone who is a public figure and there are aspects of your life that you want to keep private, of course, right? Especially if you've got interesting sexual proclivities or you like to do some real freak nasty shit. Yes, absolutely. Even for the average person, nowadays, because everything is so public, even private citizens are kind of public figures now. Um, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but it depends, right? Like, just the regular dude around the way, I wouldn't expect to go out on a date with him and then have to sign an NDA. Like, what's so interesting about your life that you need an NDA? Like, or are you about to carve your initials into my skin at the end of this date? And then, you don't want me to call the cops. Like,
Right.
it raises a lot of questions. But if I'm being honest, I've done NDAs for individuals for various things. And it's not just for dating. It could just be there are certain things that you want to keep private. And so legally, it's a great instrument for that. But in today's, of course, it all depends. If you've got anything to lose, particularly financially, then absolutely.
Definitely. It makes a lot of sense. Junkyard Jedi said he's also a Cancer, so that's a shadow aspect of for them. So yeah, it's interesting that this is happening in Cancer season. So this is happening in this season. Yeah, so it's definitely yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The stars always line up. I always say that the stars always line up and are accurate, and you could definitely see this play out in the so-called stars here. So it's definitely important to look at your chart and see what's going on, especially when these transits are hitting. All right, now let's get into less mundanity or mundane things and get into this astrology. So we got Mercury retrograde in Leo right now. Oh
Yes.
boy. Started July 17th, going to August the 17th. July 18th, sorry, going to August 17th. Now, when people talk about Mercury retrograde, it's always kind of a downer, right? Technology is going to crash, communication is going to mess up, travel issues, right? Issues with flights, trains, planes, automobiles, things like that, right? It's usually focused on the negative aspect of Mercury retrograde. But I've been seeing your posts, and you've been posting some very interesting things about Mercury retrograde that have lean more on the positive aspects or aspects of utility, I would say, that could benefit you. Talk to us about this Mercury retrograde in Leo, what it means to us, what it's looking like. and any advice that you could give us to ride this wave, so to speak.
Okay, sure. So, yes, Mercury retrograde is not the shit show that people, portray it to be, although it can be if you feed into that energy. With any retrograde, it's all about being intentional. That's why everything kind of slows down because it gets you into the space of, okay, I have to take my time with this, or I have to double check this, right? So it gets you to be really intentional. And whatever sign it's in gets you to be intentional around those topics. So I think the post that you're referring to is the one that I put the other day about how Mercury in Leo, whether it is retrograde or direct, has a lot to do with creativity. Leo is a creative sign. It's the sign of the heart. It's the sign of creativity and self-expression. And so when we have Mercury retrograde in Leo, it allows us to tap into our creativity. Like, for instance, there may have been something that you loved to do as a kid, right? Maybe you were someone who drew. Maybe you drew comics, right? But as you get older, life starts lifing, you get into adulthood, and you kind of leave those things to the wayside because you got bills to pay and things to do. But Mercury retrograde in Leo could have you, like, for instance, you'd be watching YouTube and it's a video on someone drawing a comic. And you're like, damn, I remember how I used to do that. And I used to love it, right? And so it reignites this passion, it reignites this creativity. And so if you allow yourself to be open to whatever the universe is trying to call your attention to, and whatever the universe is trying to get you to be intentional about, you may find that these 3 weeks are very creative. They spark your creativity, they spark your passion, they spark things from childhood that you really enjoyed. Leo is very lighthearted energy, right? And so Mercury retrograde in Leo could actually feel really good. It could feel very nostalgic. It could feel very comforting, right? Because you're returning to things that you used to love. Now, on the flip side of that, on the more, I don't want to say negative, but let's just say on the other side of the coin, Leo has a lot to do with romance. And so romance and romantic relationships, there's also an undercurrent of that energy in this retrograde. So this is why you may have people saying, oh my God, my ex is coming back, or they're sliding back in my DMs or whatever. That's not a bad thing either, because the one thing that Mercury retrograde wants to show you is that if something is a no, it's a no. And I'm going to show you it's a no so you can move on to a yes. So if that person is coming back, it's either because the universe is like, I need you to see this because we're not going to repeat this, or something needs to be purified. Remember, Leo is a fire sign, and Mercury retrograde in Leo is purification by fire. So certain things have to be burned. Not literally, please. But if that person comes back around, and it may not even be a person, it may be a whole new person in the same structure, the same code, it's a new person, but they're just like my ex. Well, sweetheart, that's because this whole pattern, this karmic pattern, it needs to be burned, it needs to be purified, and you got to see it, you got to feel it. Maybe you even got to get your heart broken a little bit so that your heart breaks open. So now the purification can begin. So use retrograde energy as, use it constructively, because that's exactly what the universe wants to do. Yes, your cell phone might break. Yes, the train may be late. Yes, those are things that Mercury does anyway, because Mercury is the trickster. So sometimes Mercury, especially Mercury retrograde, wants to trip you up to get you to see something. Mercury wants to trip you up. Just, how kids are. Like, kids can be really fucking annoying sometimes. Like, they just want to fuck with you, or they just, do things. Like, Mercury does that too. So you kind of just have to roll with the punches, but use the energy constructively, and you'll find that every time Mercury retrograde happens, if you use it that way, you're strengthening. You're strengthening yourself spiritually. You may be strengthening yourself mentally, and you are ascending. That's part of doing the work that everybody talks about. So it's not the hellscape that people make it out to be. I promise.
Mel, there's a lot of, right now, there's a lot of positive energy. We're getting a lot of solar flares, CMEs, coronal mass ejections, right? DNA unlocked, right? People are shifting timelines. Some people are losing jobs. Some people are moving. Some people are leaving relationships. There's an aspect of Mercury that definitely deals with communication, right? Komet
Mhm.
is a very Tahutian type of energy, right? Where you're just communicating, whether it's higher sciences or just communicating, writing in general, right? What would you say with this Leo aspect, how it could maybe trip you up in communication, but also help you in communication? Meaning, let's say, for example, you're in a situation with someone and you're in a relationship with them, and you've been feeling beat down by this person, right? Maybe this person is a narcissist. Maybe this person is just someone that doesn't recognize your value. Would this be the time to rise up? Would this be the time to speak out?
It depends on several things. It could depend on your particular chart and the transits that are hitting your chart. So for someone, this may be an opportune time. For someone, this may not be the right time at all. But generally speaking, with Mercury retrograde, if this has been a recurring problem, then yes, you should definitely address it. Number one. To talk about how Mercury retrograde could trip you up, particularly Mercury retrograde in Leo. Mercury in Leo, period, wants you to speak from your heart, which requires a certain amount of vulnerability. So when we're talking about relationships, this is about being honest. This is about speaking from your heart, not your ego. But where Mercury retrograde may trip you up is that perhaps in the past you spoke from your heart and you got heartbroken.
Mm,
So now you're completely an ego and you're just saying things to defend yourself. You're saying things that are perhaps pushing the person away instead of opening your heart to them that could bring you two closer. So this could find people being very egotistical, very prideful, very main character energy, like
mm,
don't talk to me, you're a fucking peasant, or you need to what are you doing for me? And it could be very me centered, right? But if you take the same situation and let's say that you spoke from your heart before and it got you heartbroken, now Mercury retrograde is giving you a do-over. Now, what that means is you really need to examine the situation. So, is this situation the carbon copy of the last time? Probably not, right? But maybe your ego is psyching you out and making you think, oh, I got to defend myself because this person's going to do me like the last person did. So you got to sit and really think, okay, is this relationship worth, saving? Do I love this person? Is this someone that I want to open my heart to? Is this someone that I probably want to have a long-term relationship with? Then I'm going to have to put my ego and my pride aside and I'm going to have a conversation from the heart. I'm going to have to express myself uniquely. I'm going to have to let myself be seen, right? That's the essence of Mercury and Leo, is allowing yourself to be seen, particularly through your voice, particularly through your conversations. So you can either allow it to get you into your ego and pride and just continue the karmic cycle, or you can say, okay, let me examine this situation. If it's safe for me and appropriate for me to open my heart, doing that, it changes everything. It ends the cycle and now you can move on. So that's kind of how you can either let Mercury retrograde fuck with you or let it help you and help you move forward.
excellent, excellent. That is beautiful. So let's talk about, because we had Mercury retrograde that popped off recently, Friday to be exact, on the 18th, but also this week. And I did a quick video on this for TikTok, but I spread it everywhere. Saturn Aries. So it's a very interesting week. Talk to us about Saturn in Aries and how that also combines with this particular aspect of Mercury in Leo and how they tie together. Because it's interesting that Mercury, there's also a Mercury in Leo transit as well, that started June 26th, that goes to 8-3. So it's
Mhm.
heavy Mercury and Leo energy, but Saturn is a whole different beast, right? Especially in
Mhm.
Aries, Saturn is like discipline, structure, law. And in Aries, it's like hard discipline, structure, and law. So talk to
Yeah.
us about that.
So yeah, Saturn in Aries is not necessarily the most, I'm not going to say most comfortable aspect, but it's like that drill sergeant, that general, right? That's how you want to, that disciplinarian, that authoritarian. But it's important to know that right now, where Saturn is, it's in a trine to this Mercury in Leo. So what that means is whatever you're trying to correct right now via Mercury retrograde in Leo, right? So it could be on the relationship tip. It could be about expressing yourself and standing up and allowing yourself to be seen, right? It all depends on where Leo is in your natal chart. But Saturn in Aries is giving you the structure and the container to hold that, right? Because there's nothing worse than making a change, but not having the structure to sustain it. Saturn in Aries is like when you get a personal trainer, right? And depending on how your personal trainer works, I know when I had one, that man would wake me up at 6 a.m. and he would call me repeatedly. And that shit was annoying as fuck. Especially because back then I was like going out and drinking the night before. So I would
Oh
be
man,
like it was a hot ass mess.
right.
But calling me until I get to the gym. Then when I get to the gym, he would whoop my fucking ass. Like he would really, really like get me to work. But that's because I had a goal. I had something that I was trying to work toward. And Saturn in Aries is like, listen, we're setting new goals, but new long-term goals. Saturn is all about longevity and structure. So Saturn being in the first sign of the zodiac is like, all right, we're starting something new. Okay. But I want you to understand it's going to be work and it's going to be tough and I'm going to kick your ass. But by the time it's over, you will have achieved this thing that at one point was just a desire. Because here's the thing with Aries. Aries desires a lot, but doesn't always have the follow through. Aries will want something. Aries will be hot for something. But when it comes time to do the work, Aries like, let me move on to this. Let me try this. The Aries will want to do 1,000,001 things, right? But when Aries really desires something, it's like laser like focus. And then when you put Saturn in there, Saturn is like, all right, I'm going to create the structure, create the container so that you can have it. Not only you want this thing, you have it and you can keep it. So whatever Mercury retrograde in Leo wants you to work on, it's perhaps going to give you that lesson several times, right? Think of it like in school. You have, you're in seventh grade. You have the same math. You have the same math all year, but you have tests every week or every 2 weeks, right? Like that's how Saturn operates. So it's not just going to be like, oh, okay, so I had this conversation with this person and I spoke from my heart, cool. But then the next time something happens, you're back in your ego and you're prideful again. Saturn is going to take you to task and Saturn's going to be like, repeat, next, repeat, next, repeat until you get the lesson and until you graduate. So it's helpful, but in a disciplinarian sort of way. It's tough, like a father. Saturn represents father, also like father time. So it's this energy of I'm getting you structured and I'm doing this because I love you. I know you don't like it. I know you don't like waking up every day early. I know that it's tough for you to speak from your heart or to act differently in relationships, but I'm gonna make you do this until it becomes second nature. And when it becomes second nature, now those raggedy ass relationships that you were complaining about, they can't even find you anymore. Now you've graduated. Now you're in relationships with people who, they don't have the same issues or situations that you had to deal with before. So it's helpful in a hard sort of way.
It's giving Mr. Miyagi Danielson wax on, wax off, what I'm saying, doing the hard work and constantly, bumping your head, so to speak, so that till you get it. So wow, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. We also, I want to get into this a little bit and then we'll move on to the next, because we have like 4 big transits. But it says here, Mel, especially if you have planets in Aries or other cardinal signs, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, you could experience greater amounts of self-criticism or pressure to get by with less than you're used to. Instead, ride the wave of this transit by working with Saturn's determination to act with inner integrity. The planet of the hermit, Saturn, is in the sign of self, Aries. Narrow your focus to achieve what you know is right. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Integrity is a keyword when it talks about Saturn. So Saturn is the disciplinarian. So if you're acting out of integrity, Saturn will punish you. So just like it's the school of hard knocks, right? So the minute that you do something that's out of integrity, something that's disingenuous or anything like that, Saturn is going to try to get you back in line, sometimes by any means necessary. So yes, all of that makes sense.
Yeah, this is a really a great time or a great summer because a lot of these transits are like till August, November or whatever,
Hmm.
even October. Like this is really a great time, I think, is to transform, right? And to look at patterns in your life that have, like you said, have been reoccurring, that continue to go on and on and on, and really analyze, take time in solitude, take time in reflection, take time in nature, go by some water, do some grounding, and really, really sit down and analyze your life. Even if you have to Mercury, journal it out, write it out, right? So that you can see exactly what's going on and how to change. If you keep repeating the same mistakes, it's not helpful to anyone to continue to cast blame on someone else. It's much better to really look at the situation, analyze it for what it is, and then move forward. Um,
Oh, I can't hear you.
I hit my mic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, yeah, I hit my mic by mistake. Yeah, but if you're not really aligned during this time or really not trying to seek alignment, like I believe it's going to be hell the next couple of months. It's going to be a hell, summer of hell for you, and you're
Mhm.
really not going to know how to get out of it. Let's talk about we got two more powerful retrogrades, Neptune in Aries. We just talked about Saturn in Aries. And let's combine that with Pluto in Aquarius, being that we're in the age of Aquarius. So Neptune in Aquarius was started on July 4th. Interesting. This is also when Trump passed this bill, right?
Mhm.
Quote unquote big, beautiful bill. And Pluto in Aquarius. And we know we're coming into the age of Aquarius, and Pluto likes to tear things down, destroy them, right? And come back in because of Pluto's uh, Pluto is really a planet that stays in the Milky Way galaxy, but it's one of the only planets or dwarf planet that crosses the Van Allen belt. So it actually goes outside the Milky Way for a while and then comes back into the Milky Way galaxy. So it's a very transformative planet. Um, Talk to us about Neptune and Aries, and how that plays into Saturn and Aries, number one, and then Pluto and Aquarius, and how it all ties in if you
Mhm. So the way that Saturn retrograde in Aries is working, again, is that disciplinarian, right? But it's also getting you to re-examine like past habits or even past desires, right? Because Aries is very much about desires, goals. Aries wants to start something new. And so Saturn retrograde can really have you thinking about things from the past, perhaps that didn't get to launch, things that you didn't get to work on, things that you didn't get to go after, right? But this time around, what may be different, because this is Saturn's first time in Aries in a very long time. So what may
can.
be different this time around is that now not only is the desire being reignited, but now you have or will have the tools to create that container for it to be sustainable. Because again, Aries is impulsive. So if you would, Aries wants to start something but doesn't know how to follow through. Saturn is all about follow through. So now we can have things that we've always wanted, but we're never able to have or never able to do. And Saturn can really help us achieve them, right? In a very, again, disciplined, integrity filled kind of way. Then when you compound that with Neptune, and Saturn and Neptune are conjunct right now, this is about, it's not just about desires, because Aries is desirous, I want to say, like on a mundane level. Like, I desire this money, or I desire this job, or I desire this car, even, right? But then you add Neptune on it. Neptune is your dreams, it's your ambition, it's the big picture. So we're not even rewinding to, just talk about desires we had in the past. Now we're talking about dreams,
Mm,
right? versus I'm, 55 years old and I'm deciding to go to medical school because I've always wanted to and now I can, right? Or I've always wanted to do this or have this. Like we're all rewinding time to see not only the things that we desire, not only our dreams, but perhaps even the things that have been obstacles to those things, whether it's fear, whether it's insecurity. There's also a whole other aspect of this, which is about authority. And long story short, when we're talking about Neptune and Saturn retrograde, perhaps some of the things that you wanted, perhaps some of the dreams that you had couldn't be achieved because your authority was elsewhere. Maybe you wanted to go to medical school, but family obligations were like, nah, you just can't do that right now. You have to do this. Now, Saturn in Aries is like, you are your own authority. And it's sort of one of those things where heavy is the head that wears the crown. Yes, you're your own authority, but you have to be disciplined enough. You have to be structured enough. I just saw a post yesterday, I think it was on Threads, where it's like, as an entrepreneur, you realize that there's no time limit for anything until you realize that the time has passed to do something, right? So, like, I have no deadlines. I could do anything whenever. But if that bill is due in 2 weeks, I need to beat my feet so that I can get some fucking money, right? So you know that you need to get structured and disciplined in order to do things. So where is your authority lying? Perhaps you're someone whose authority was everywhere else but with yourself. And so that's how you felt like you were a victim of circumstances, life was dragging you. Saturn and Neptune in Aries, particularly now that they're both retrograde, they're going to show you not only the things that you wanted, but perhaps they're going to show you the tools and the resources so that you can be self-sufficient and so that you can have authority within yourself to make those dreams come true. It's not up to anybody but you to make your life the way that you want it to. Not the government, not your parents, not your spouse, not your children. It's you. And Saturn and Neptune and Aries desperately want to show that to you. They want to teach you. They want to show you. They want to give you what you need to be self-sufficient so that you can literally have the things that you want. And then when you put on top of that Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, it's like, okay, now Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, really though, it's more of a societal thing as opposed to really personal. Because Pluto is so far out, its energy affects us more as a society than individually. You can tap into the energy of Pluto at any time, particularly wherever it is in your chart. So wherever Aquarius is in your chart, this is the area of life that's undergoing a transformation for you, right? And it's an area of life where the energy of transformation is available to you. But it's like Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is rewinding everything in society and taking a bulldozer to what no longer works. So anything that's not taking us into the future, anything that needs to be improved, I'll say this. The phrase is necessity is the mother of invention. So it's one of those situations where you know how you're saying, okay, let's say you have a car, it's a really beat up car, right? And you're like, damn, I want a new car. And then what happens? You get into an accident or your car completely breaks down and it can't be fixed. And you're just like, fuck, I know I said I need a new car, but how am I going to get this new car? Necessity is the mother of invention. The universe just made it necessary for you to innovate to get the thing that you want. So that's what's happening on a societal level. Certain things are going to be knocked out. Certain things are going to be eliminated for us to invent something new. And it's like the retrograde is going to have us going back in time to figure out what those things are. So that's kind of running in the background of everything. That's why things feel so like they do. Yeah. Because there's just a lot going on. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Do you think, because I noticed, Mel, that there's a lot of, let's say, exaggerated drug use. that I've seen lately, where people are just kind of trying to escape by any means possible. I did a video one day, and like before I did the video, Spirit was just like, go outside. And I talked about this. I forget which video. I think it's the new moon in Cancer. And like everybody that was walking by me was smoking weed. They was either smoking weed, rolling weed, tripping off heroin, but everybody was high. And it was like, wow, like it was like a snapshot of people just trying to escape. Do you think these transits are influencing that call to go within, even though it's artificial?
Yeah, I think that so Saturn and Neptune are still sort of straddling the line between Pisces and Aries. And later on in the year, they're both going to dip back into Pisces. So this area of Pisces Aries is the realm of escape versus it's like incubation and birth, right?
Mm,
So Pisces is the sign of escapism. And especially when Saturn and Neptune were getting into the later degrees of Pisces, particularly when they were at 29 degrees of Pisces, this was when people felt like they were really going crazy, or things are so bad, things are so intense that they want to escape. And that, especially given the time frame that we're in right now, everything that's happening right now, I can see why that a lot of people are feeling that way, because it's like if you are not on that trajectory of change, and change doesn't mean that you're willing or even, intentional about transforming your own life, but if you are rigid during this time when you need to be flexible, you are going to break. Anything that is inflexible at this time will break.
mm.
Some people are just, to avoid being broken, they will just escape, right? So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. Looking at this post, they say expect a period of intense introspection and transformation regarding your beliefs, ideals, and relationships with technology and society. So that also Mercury, right? Technology and things like that. You may find yourself diving deep into issues relating to power dynamics within groups, societal structures, and your own ability to affect change. This transit encourages you to confront hidden truths, release old patterns that no longer serve you, and embrace personal empowerment in a more authentic way. Be prepared for revelations that may shake your worldview, but ultimately lead to profound growth and liberation. It's time to reassess your place in the collective and how you could contribute positively to the greater good. Yeah, you can't really contribute positively to the greater good if you're not the greater good yourself, right? If you're not putting in the work to try to change and transform so you could be, I remember, Mel, my pro-black stage, when I was like really like, fight the power. And that was my whole identity, like trying to save the black community, trying to cure the black community of their ills. And then I came to a point where I realized that I wasn't happy. I realized that every news cycle, when I saw something happen, whether it was police brutality or some injustice, that it was depressing me on a physical level. But it also made me want to do things like shop. It also made me want to do things like eat ice cream late at night. It also made me want to consume, high amounts of cannabis, right? And liquor, to kind of know the pain. And I think when we shift our focus from the world and the environment, which I try to talk about on this channel, from what's really out there to in here, then everything out there becomes easier to handle. Everything out there becomes easier to navigate through and with. And sometimes you just got to shrug some things off that don't really affect you personally. You know, you can't really indulge yourself in a story that's halfway around the world when like you said, you can't pay your bills now, and you've been having trouble paying your bills, or you've been having trouble in relationships, or you've been having trouble with anxiety, you've been having trouble with depression. Like those things are the more pressing issues than worrying about what's happening in Planet Andromeda or the Galactic Federation, in my opinion, or if the Earth is flat around, right? Is your brain flat around? You know what I'm saying? Is your neuroplasticity flat or round, right? Are you really trying to learn who you are, what you are, and how you could become the best version of yourself? And that's
Mhm.
really what I think will ultimately contribute to the collective, because everybody talks about the community, right? Which is what every Aquarius represents. It represents the community, but the community starts with families, right? Every community starts with a family or individuals. So if the individual or the family is not right, then the community is not going to be right. No matter where you move or where you go, there you are. This is why they're kicking people off of Carnival cruises, because no matter where you go, there you are. So it doesn't matter where you are if you're still going to have a certain mentality. So it's very, I think this is a very, like I said, I think this is a very, very crucial time for all of us to do some sincere introspection. Let's go into,
And
go
before
ahead.
you move on, I will say about community and Aquarius, right? Yes, Aquarius is the collective. And with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, everyone is really examining the collective. And it's kind of like this whole, like you say, the whole Carnival cruise thing and, this black fatigue thing, if we're being honest, like people are like, I'm not part of that group. I'm part of this one. There are different groups. There's different collectives. I'm not with them. And there's a lot of now, okay, who is part of this group? What is this group about? Do I still resonate with this group? Does the ideals of the group make sense? You're seeing this on the other side as well. You have this fractionalization essentially of the Republican Party, right? Because with this whole Epstein files and all of these things, everyone's like, listen, yeah, I'm a Republican, but I'm not with them. Like,
Right.
I ain't MAGA, right? So every group is going through kind of a cleansing right now to figure out, well, what is the group? What is the parameter of the group? What are the ideals of the group? Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, and mind you, Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 30 years. So this is something that's going to be happening repeatedly until 30 years from now. You're going to have these groups that probably look wildly different than the ones that we have now. I was reading a statistic not long ago. It said, I think within another 20 to 30 years, majority of the population will be mixed, right?
Yeah.
And we're already seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the essence sort of Pluto working its way through Aquarius. So to go back to Pluto retrograde, everyone's like, well, what group do you belong to? Well, I'm not part of this group. I'm not part of that group. Yeah, I'm black, but I'm not
Right.
that black.
I'm not that black. I'm not that type of thing. Right.
Right. So there's going to be a lot more of that to come.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely people are trying to assert their identities in whichever way and form that they so choose to. And I think that's great. I think people should be proud of where they come. I think where they come from. I think people should be proud of who they are. I think people should be proud of their ancestry and express it the way that they want to express it. I think Mercury and Leo was also like with this retrograde that we're in, Mercury retrograde in Leo and Mercury in Leo transit. I think it's also about asserting that, like looking back on things and previous ideas that you had on your self identity and really assessing it. And does it really serve you at this time? Like, is it really something that is trauma based? Is it something that you've been through? Is something like you were saying earlier, you got from your parents, your friends, from school, a colleague? And is it really the identity? Leo is all about identities. So is it really the identity that you want to present to the world at this time? Is this really the identity, but not even present to the world, but is it serving you, right? Is it allowing you to change? Is it allowing you to develop? Is it allowing you to shed some of these bad habits, right? Is it allowing you to get over some of these personal limitations that you have that you may be, I'm not telling people not to take their pills or drugs or whatever, but maybe there's some herbs that you could take that you haven't looked into. Maybe there's, maybe these issues you have because you've been sitting on your ass all day, every day, and you don't move your body ever. Maybe you need to take a trip out in nature. Maybe you need to dip your feet in some water. Maybe you need to, take a road trip, get away from the kids, leave them with somebody for a little bit, just so you can have some clear space and peace of mind. So A, you're not in their business, because some of y'all be traumatizing the hell out y'all kids just because you in their business, you have no business of your own, and B, that you could assess what you need to work on personally. Like this channel and what I try to talk about is spiritual personal development. You know what I'm saying? If the aliens are going to come down and help you, great. I'm all for it. If you could take a selfie with the aliens and show them how they've helped you achieve some goals and some miraculous things, great, it's practical. But if you're just spending 2 hours, 3 hours watching live videos on aliens, and again, you got depression, you got severe anxiety, and you're not trying to fix it, then you're hustling backwards in life, in abundance, in success, right? And this is from someone who suffered from anxiety for most of my life, which I always talk about. But it can be cured. You can fix it if you want to fix it, and if you're really sincere about looking into ways to fix it. And I remember, Mel, I used my anxiety and my seasonal depression. Oh, I weaponized the shit out of those things. Every time something happened, every time something went, oh, it's my depression. Oh, it's my seasonal anxiety. And were those some influences? Yes. But was I really doing something about it? No. I got diagnosed. It's like, all right, go take some vitamin D, nigga. And that's what they told him, take some vitamin D, get out some sun, and that's it. But I had to do more. So it's really about really assessing yourself, looking yourself in the mirror and seeing, is this person the person that I want to be for the rest of my life, moving forward, right, into 2025. We see what's happening with Trump, which we'll get into shortly, with the whole, everything's being stripped, whether we know it or not, and it's really like, are you going to be able to lead, like Leo, lead? Are you going to be able to stand strong on your own too, on your own pivot? Are you looking for leaders? Are you looking for somebody to save you? Are you looking for a man, a woman, a wife? When you get a wife, everything will be all right. When you get a husband, everything will be all right, right? Or your kids, right? Are you looking for them to save you? Are you going to save yourself? And are you affirming that on a day-to-day basis, on a religious, ritualistic basis? Because this is about following your own religion, creating your own religion, or tie back to source, right? Religion to tie back to source. So how this is an entrepreneurial type of movement, right? This is not where, there's some Christ figure or messianic figure coming to save you, because that's not happening. In fact, if you look in the Bible, during Paul's time, he said during his time, and you can research me, that's when Jesus would come. And Paul's been dead for centuries, right? So it's really time to get it together. Let's talk about Trump real quick, since we talked about that, Mel. What's this year looking like politically? I've been looking at other people's astrological channels, people of other cultures, races other than ours, and they all like, Orange Man, he gonna get his, he gonna get sick, he's gonna you know what I'm saying? He's gonna get sick, he's gonna let's say become unalived, right? They're like wishing him, especially since this whole Medicaid thing and welfare impact, especially since it's impacting them a lot. They've been like, this guy got to go. What's any astrological aspects confirming or denying that, or showing anything this year politically that we should look out for?
So I don't really look into his chart, or I personally don't use astrology and politics together. Like it's not my thing. I think from a spiritual perspective, everything's happening as it should. I think that whatever end he's supposed to meet, he will, once the prophecy is fulfilled, right? Once he's completed his job here, we all know what his job here is. It's to bring the light, right? And I'm not talking about in an angelic sort of way, but that's sort of what his job is. I think that when that's done, then that will be it, right? But I personally, I've looked at his chart, but I don't examine his chart.
Gotcha.
He is a Gemini, so Gemini season is always really interesting for him, and we saw that he tried to do that bullshit ass parade and whatnot, all of that shit, right? That for his birthday. But in terms of what we should look out for politically, I will say that Uranus in Gemini is going to really shake things up. Uranus is the planet of chaos.
When does that happen now? When does Uranus and Gemini happen?
It's now.
Okay.
It's now. And it's going to, so it started, I want to say within the last 2 weeks, Uranus Gemini. It will retrograde back into Taurus very briefly later on this year, but then it will be in Gemini for the next 7 to 8 years. And so Uranus is the planet of chaos. Gemini is the sign of the trickster. So you just have a lot of chaos, a lot of misinformation, a lot of distraction, a lot of podcasts, a lot of all of that, more of that. And it's going to come to a head, and then it's going to decrease. And then there's going to be this wave of it over the next 7 to 8 years. But essentially it is to free us, free our minds, right? And free our ability to communicate and express ourselves. And you kind of have to sift through the garbage in order to get there. So, in terms of everything sort of feeling or appearing chaotic, it's definitely Uranus and Gemini. And it's not meant to scare you. It's not meant to say that, oh, for the next 8 years, it's just going to be pure chaos, although to a certain extent, it kind of will be. But it's about, this is a period of time where we are cleaning up and qualifying and advancing our ability to communicate how we think. I said before, anything that's too rigid right now is going to break, especially your mind. So if you are too attached to an ideology, any ideology, it doesn't matter what, it could be about, I saw today on Threads, there was this whole big debacle about people talking about, how nowadays, like, fanatics of hip hop, they really just care about sales. And it's like, what does it matter about sales? It matters about the quality of the music. But because everything has become so commercialized, if you see something with more sales and they're doing better numbers, that must mean it's better. So there was this whole back and forth with people on that, right? And so if you're tied to any sort of ideology, as mundane as that, or as esoteric as, and spirituality or anything like that, you will break over the next 8 years. You have to be flexible, you have to be teachable, you have to be willing to learn, you have to be willing to open your mind. Not everything that is conveyed as bad is bad. Not everything that is conveyed as good is good. And you have to not only use your intuition, but common fucking sense, which a lot of people lack. Let's call a spade a spade.
Thinking too. Critical thinking, right?
Right. Critical thinking, all of those things. You have to use those things in order to pivot. It's not to say that you have to flip flop and you just go wherever the wind takes you. But if you're very rooted in an ideology, if you're very rooted in a particular frame of mind, when the universe starts to change, which it already is, you're going to get left behind. Or, God forbid, you have like a nervous breakdown. And that's going to be a thing over the next 8 years. Like, people are really going to have nervous breakdowns. Gemini is associated with the nervous system. And when you have the planet of chaos, Uranus, that's like getting struck by lightning in your spine. So please be mindful of not only what you are ingesting mentally, but your frame of mind, right? And your nervous system. Do what you need to do to keep your anxiety at bay, because anxiety is also going to ramp up too. And the more that anxiety ramps up, the more disinformation and misinformation gets disseminated, because it's Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and blah, 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 and World War III, and all of these things, right? They're coming from a place of anxiety and dysregulated nervous systems. So, yeah, be mindful.
Yeah. It's I was talking about 2025, and I had predicted accurately that Trump and Elon was gonna, have friction. Somebody actually told me about it. Told me, oh yeah, you predicted. I was like, okay, yeah, but that Trump and Elon wasn't, because their egos was gonna clash, and I think that's a lot of what's happening.
Oh, your mic is off.
No, I said I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, where they're having egos clashing, like Trump and Elon, which I predicted earlier in the year that they were going to have their egos clash. And it's really like you said, you have to be able to be in. I think Straight Panther said that, like, be in the world and of the world. And we're in this year of the snake, 2025 year of the snake, where it's a wood snake though. So wood, that's foundation, that's the earth, right? That's what we're all standing on right now. And we're not leaving anytime soon unless we get on the plane. So we're on the ground right now. So the earth is shifting, the foundations are shifting. Currency is going to shift soon. We've talked about that on this channel before. The foundations of work, how that's changing. AI is taking a lot of people's jobs right now. A lot of jobs are changing. So you really got to dig into your source and figure out, what am I here to do? Like, what is my purpose? And align with that when you align with anything else, because that'll be your stabilizer. When the world's chaotic and when things are going this and currency is going that, you still have a focus. Now, if you're just going to your job, nothing's wrong with just going to your job, right? But if that's all you're doing and you have nothing else on the side, meaning that's your real passion, unless your job is your real passion, right? That's different, right? And some people are passionate about what they do for work. But if that's not you and you know you're just going there for your check, then it's about, okay, not, and this is taken from Rob Blackstorm, who did this religiously many years ago, not smoking in the morning, right? Going on lunch break smoking, coming back from work smoking, and then avoiding doing the work on what is my real purpose? What is it that I have to do to get out of this job? What other job can I take? Even if you're at the job, how do I become a manager? How do I become a supervisor? Right? How do I elevate from the place that I'm in to maximize myself or maximize my currency so that I can invest in other things and then move on from this job or career, or even start your own business if that's what you want to do, right? I don't think everybody could be entrepreneurs, but I do think everybody has a skill and everybody has a passion, everybody has a purpose here, and it doesn't necessarily involve just work, right? You could be the best counselor. You could be very humorous. You could be the best friend. You could be just a caretaker for your neighbors. You could be the person that tells people to calm down when shit is crazy, right? What is your purpose? Why are you here? And what are you really built here to do? And looking into that, that'll start to bring you abundance. That'll start to bring you success. That'll start to bring you people that you align with, that have your same vision, have your same soul, and have a certain amount of integrity, if you have that, right? And I could tell you that from my own life, right? Like me and Mel, we've been talking for a minute, I just saw on the internet, I was like, this is one of them ones, right? And it turned out to be true, you know what I'm saying? But this is an alignment, right? This is finding your tribe. So what is your tribe? Who are the people of your tribe? The tribe may be different. Your family may not agree with your tribe. Your friends might not agree with your tribe, right? But who is your tribe? And are you going to stand up and stand in that, right? Mercury retrograde, right? Are you going to really stand in that? And do you really know what that is? And is it beneficial? Or are you just whiffing, talking? Is it solving problems? Is it practical? Is it solving motherfucking problems in your life? Spirituality that does not affect your reality is vanity.
Yeah, say that again.
Spirituality that does not affect your reality is vanity. If you're just looking at spirituality for entertainment, right, you're better off going to church. You're better off. You're better off staying in church, mind you, as much as possible. Like, don't just go Sundays, go Wednesdays, go Thursdays, like, go as much as possible, because you're going to need it. Sunday's not going to be enough. So, because you want somebody to just walk you through it when you don't want to walk through this life yourself. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. But if you're really about self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-purpose, self-enlightenment, right? Understanding who you are, then you're going to have to walk through the fire, so to speak, and take the time to really look at what's going on and not seek escapism during these times. And plus, the weed right now is highly chemically engineered, right? Even the mushrooms, you're getting them from mushroom dispensaries. Don't think the government doesn't have their hand in it, right? For me to have to shake weed, which I did twice this year, it's very tough. Withdrawal symptoms and all that. And I didn't have that in the 90s when I was smoking at all. I could stop smoking weed for weeks if I wanted to. I didn't have no withdrawal symptoms. But this shit has withdrawal symptoms, for real, like a fiend. So I'm not telling people what to do, but I am saying examine your life and see what really works best for you. Mel, let's talk about real quick the Sun and Leo coming up on the 22nd. We're going into Leo season. We talked about Mercury and Leo. What can we expect to look at, and what should we work on during these times?
Your identity. So Sun is the actual ruler of Leo. So the sun is at home in Leo. And so what does the sun do? It shines regardless. Even if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's cloudy, the sun always rises and it always shines. And so you should too. So you should really work on, how do you shine? Who are you at your core? The one thing about Leo energy is that Leo, a lot of people say, well, Leo is main character. Yes, but Leo is main character because it is comfortable in its skin. It is confident. So Leo season is always a great time to work on your confidence. It's always a great time to be seen. It's always a great time to express yourself. It could also be a highly creative time as well. So, and creativity for the sake of creativity, not creativity for content, not creativity for a hustle, like creativity because you like it.
Right.
Like me personally, one of the things I love to do, I love to color. So I will get coloring books. And when I feel the need, even sometimes when I have anxiety, like I color. And it's not because, oh, I'm going to post this and show people that I'm coloring. I do it because it makes me feel good. And it's something that I like, right? That's how Leo operates. You know how when you were in high school and there was like a popular kid, but they were popular because they didn't give a fuck, like they were just them, and people just seemed to gravitate toward them. Like they didn't try to put on this front. They weren't trying to be like everybody else. Like everyone looked up to them because they were themselves and they weren't afraid to be themselves. That's Leo. So working on your identity is really good. Being creative. It's also childlike and heart centered. So Leo season is the quintessential summer season. Is the time for you to play. It's the time when you don't take life so seriously. It's the time when you could be free, right? Like as a kid during the summer, you had no school. And hopefully as a child, you weren't working. So you had your summers off, right? And so you would play, you'd be outside, you'd be doing sports, or you would go to camp or whatever. That's what Leo season wants you to do. Now it's sandwiched in between Cancer and Virgo. Cancer is like waterworks. It always boggles my mind that Cancer season is in the summer because Cancer, I feel like every day during Cancer season, I'm crying or I'm dealing with some sort of family trauma or some intense type of shit, right? It's always your emotional overhaul during Cancer. So we're leaving that and we get to have fun before we get into Virgo, which is like boring, mundane, and back to work, right?
Right.
So Leo, if there was a phrase for Leo season, we outside. I'm outside. Like be outside, have fun. That's the best. I think that's the best use of Sun and Leo energy.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Be childlike, be as the narrative of Christ said, right? Do not be childish, but be childlike. Like if you're a guy, man, play with toys, you know what I'm saying? Like get some childhood nostalgic things. Don't ever lose your child, right? Like sometimes I write poetry just for fun, just because I like doing it. These things, and that's what I used to do as a child. These things keep you in a spirit of youth. And also this pathway, I believe, well, not I believe, I know it should be fun. You should be having fun on your spiritual journey. You should be enjoying the work. You should be enjoying what you're doing. You should be enjoying your life for the most part. We all have ups and downs, right? But the spirit of gratitude will start your day great. If you find 5 things to be grateful for to start your day, no matter how mundane or non-mundane they are, it's an exercise that I do, and I started doing it again on Facebook. I ended it at the end of July, but every weekday I just jot down 5 things that I'm grateful for. And even for me, just doing the exercise, right? It helps because you have some days where you might wake up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever. It happens to all of us. And just grounding you in things that the light in your life, the positive aspects of your life. And that is a Leo energy. And Leo energy is all about being bold and dynamic. But it's also, if you look at Leo, right, and this is just coming to me, we talk about and I'll show you this real quick. Leo energy is, and I'll get into this more in my new moon in Leo, but the Egyptian Sphinx is a very, very powerful aspect of Leo itself, Leo energy, right? People think it's about being a quote unquote alpha or being, this raging lunatic that domineers and controls anything, but it's really about domineering and controlling your emotions, your animal nature, your animalistic emotions, right? The things that make you reach for things that may not be serving you, the things that urge in you to do certain things that you can't yet control or master. And that is also that wood stake energy. That is that Kundalini energy. That's coil snake. Kundalini meets coil snake. That Kundalini coil snake energy rising up your spine and learning to control that, through breath work exercises, yoga, uh, qigong, et cetera, et cetera. There's various different things that you could do and learn to control that energy and to master those urges, but they do have to be mastered, right? For me to start smoking weed, it has to be mastered. For me to start smoking cigarettes, it has to be mastered. I'll be vulnerable with y'all. I used to smoke one cigarette a night, right? That was my thing. I do all this work, doom, get me one Lucy at night. Beer and one Lucy. But
Me
I'm
too.
okay,
I
okay,
too, yes.
okay. That's what's up. See, we honest with y'all, right? But when I noticed too, but I want a six pack. Me personally, I want a six pack, right? I want a six pack. By the time I'm a certain age, I want a six pack. I know it's going to take time, and I'm willing to put in the work. But if I want the six pack, the cigarette, even though it's pretty much harmless, it also causes inflammation, right? It causes gut inflammation. And especially if you're doing it at night and sleeping on it, right, it's even worse. So that one cigarette, I got to stop, right? So now I roll up, a little bit of mugwort or whatever and go out and still, so I still have that, I still have the same sensation, right? But I'm able to hit my goals, so to speak, right? So that's alchemy, right? That's me being in my Sphinx energy, controlling that urge and mastering that urge so that it serves me and it doesn't harm me or it doesn't take me away from my goals and what I want to achieve. So it's very important that we understand that we are half animal, that we do have animal urges, that we do have animal instincts, but the mind is supposed to control matter. The mind controls all. And once you master the mind, you master the body. But you first have to master the body through understanding what you want and understanding how to cause a change and transformation. And the only way you could cause that change from transformation is through mastering your emotions. So something you said inspired me to think of that. But yeah, Mel, anything else you want to tell the people before we get up out of here?
Let's
Great,
see.
great show, by the way. Great show, as
Um,
usual.
no, I think that's it. We talked about the major transits. So the major transits are Saturn and Neptune in Aries, both retrograde. Mercury retrograde in Leo. So keep in mind, we've got 3 retrograde planets, right? 4, because we
Four.
also have Pluto. So things are going to be slow, right? And I feel like there's no better time for things to be slow than during the summer, right? And every summer, we have at least 3 or 4 planets retrograde. So that's not anything new. It's not something rare. It happens every summer. But when we have retrogrades, is to slow down, is to be intentional. You know how January feels, right? It feels like wanting to do the most, even though astrologically it's not set up for that. But summer is kind of the opposite. Summer is like, all right, you're slowing things down. We're taking our time. We're being intentional and pay attention. Because the thing is, and I think this is what I put in my post the other day, it's like, for instance, the day that Mercury went retrograde, I got this download for something that was so amazing. And it's really allowing me to be creative.
Mm,
And it happened at a time when my computer was malfunctioning. So I'm
mm,
trying to fix my computer and I was waiting for it. And boom, I got this download. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is great, right? Don't allow the distractions to knock you off your block, okay? Or knock you off your square, whatever it is. Because this is the time for getting downloads. This is the time for when things slow down, that's when you can see what is messed up. If you've been in a karmic loop, it's very hard to recognize it if you're going 60 miles per hour and you're doing all the things. So when retrograde happens, everything slows down so you could see things for what they are. And Neptune is the planet of illusions. And when it goes retrograde, the rose colored glasses come off and you will see the ugly truth of things. You
mm.
will see things as they are. And then you put Saturn there. Saturn's going to show you where you've been messing up. where you haven't been in integrity. So this is the time for you to see, okay, this is a pattern that I have to stop now. This is a pattern that I don't want to continue. So use it for that instead of just complaining about, oh, this isn't working, or oh, Mercury retrograde, this is ghetto, or oh, the train is late, or this raggedy ass motherfucker is still calling me. Like, he's calling you because you need to heal. He's calling you because you need to stop doing what you're doing. Because if he's not showing up, someone that's just like him is going to show up. And then again, and again, and again. And then all of a sudden you're saying all men are horrible. It's not all men. It's a pattern. It's a loop that you're in. So my parting advice is pay attention, be present. You don't have to be going 60 miles per hour. Slow down, be intentional about what you're doing, and do the work to change.
Mel, I remember I was, my self-esteem was very low at one point, and I was, like I said, had high anxiety, hypercritical of myself, hypercritical of others. And I remember I kept attracting women that were narcissists, like back to back to back to back to back. And then, like a couple years ago, like doing all this work and stuff like that, started to recognize the patterns. But I recognized why I was attracting them, because I wasn't setting boundaries with people. I was easy to gaslight, because if somebody tells you who you are and you don't know who you are, and they'll tell you all these great things about yourself and you don't know them yourself, right? It could cause you to, it's a act of seduction. It's a spell actually being cast against you. And then they start telling you all these negative things about you, right? Start gaslighting you. It's very, very easy to get caught up. And you want to go, like, the whole thing about narcissism is you want to go back to that first feeling that you got from that person, right? It's like a drug, dopamine, right? So you want that dopamine again that you got from that person, plus mixed with sex. Like, it's a whole biochemical toxic mixture, right? So it's very important, like Mel is saying, to really look at the patterns in your life, like really analyze what's going on in your life. And if people are coming, don't blame the opposite sex, because the opposite sex is not the problem. Even if same sex, whatever, that's not the problem. Like, some people think, oh, I'm switching, I'm gonna go to the same sex and it's gonna be different. Wherever you go, there you are. So you're just gonna attract that same person in the same sex. That's the only thing you're gonna do. You're gonna go to another color, another culture, they're gonna be better. You're just gonna attract that person in another culture doing the same thing.
Just
Right?
in a different language.
That's it. That's it. It's it. It's gonna keep magnetically attracting who you are, right? Me personally, I always say there's no real law of attraction, but there is a law of vibration. There is a law that with however you vibe, is you are gonna attract that tribe. And if you're bitter, you're up here talking about the opposite sex negatively, some of y'all are blocking y'all husbands or wives just by what you post. Just by what you post, some of y'all are blocking y'all potential husbands or wives based on your bitterness. So it's very important. Like I said, I started this, I titled this, I said, you're not being confused, you're being initiated, because we have all these transits, we have all these retrogrades going on. And this year, 2025, the year of the wood stake, is really a foundational shaking year. And you really need to understand that your foundation will be shaken in some way. Mine has, I know Mel has, I'm sure you, the viewer, in some way, it has shaken. And whatever that is, really look at it. And if you feel like it's not, fine. Like, but there's got to, even if it's not physical or mundane, in your mental, right? What change is needed, right? What new foundation is needing to, and if everything is falling apart, let it. Understand that that's what's supposed to happen. Understand that it's supposed to fall apart, right? Situation, getting laid off. Do you know I got laid off and 2 Caucasian people replaced me right after? And it's like, wow, but that was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't supposed to be there. You understand? So you got to understand that you have a better mission, right? And what are you going to do with that mission? Are you going to go back to who you were? Or are you going to move forward to who you truly are and take that risk? Leo season, it's going to be all about taking that risk, baby, to become who you truly are, to reclaim your true identity and master the animal within self. And with that being said, Mel, if you don't have any other words, I'm going to say, tell us where they could find you. Tell us where they could find your services. Mel is dead accurate. super nice, highly intelligent, as you can see, and very detailed in the way she does her chart work. So if you need your chart, you need some reading, you need some astrocartography, right? Tell them your services. Tell them where to find it. I can't say what you do better than you, Mel. Tell them what you got to offer.
So I do a variety of natal chart. I do natal chart readings. I do a variety of other readings, including astrocartography, including synastry, all of that stuff, all the things. I do all of that. You can find me on my website, divinefeminineworks.com. I have a YouTube channel, Divine Feminine Works. I'm on Instagram at Divine Feminine Works. So that is where you can find me.
Definitely show the queen goddess love, right? And with that being said, peace, power, and prosperity, and show me some love too. God damn it! Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. As you see, I'm ramping up. I put more content out. Hopefully, it is. I'll be talking about spiritual content, but also mundane things that come to my mind as well, because I want to, right? And I think it's valuable. So hopefully, I'm always bringing you value in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Put some stuff in the comments so that it hits the algorithm. And yeah, we're growing. Numbers are coming up, growing by the day. So thank you for all the new subscribers, all the sharers, all the likers, all the commenters. I really do appreciate you. It keeps me going. It keeps me wanting to bring content, and it keeps me away from the man, all right, and from choking somebody out in these streets. Peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstorm. One love.